The Voice That Changes Everything. Lessons from Carla Jenkins. Have you ever wondered what would happen if you stopped hiding your voice? If you stepped out from behind the curtain of who you think you should be and simply showed up as who you are? I recently had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing Carla Jenkins, the official podcast host for the fifth annual Detroit Filmmaker Awards and founder of Heart to Heart Inspiration. Carla is, in her own words, just a GMA trying to change the world one heart at a time. But there's nothing just about what she's accomplished. This remarkable woman has created ripples of transformation throughout Detroit's independent Black film community and beyond, demonstrating the immense power that lives within an authentic voice. Her work doesn't merely inspire, it fundamentally alters the landscape for Black creatives in a world that too often attempts to silence their stories. Today, I want to share with you what I learned from Carla about the transformative power of voice, the strength found in vulnerability, and how authenticity becomes the gateway to our greatest impact. Her story illuminates something we all need to hear in a world that often asks us to shrink, to conform, to be less than who we truly are. When Carla was approached to host the Detroit Filmmaker Awards podcast, she wasn't a film industry insider. She didn't have years of experience interviewing directors or producers. What she had was something far more valuable: a genuine ability to connect with people, to listen deeply, and to create space for others to share their truths. I had to quickly develop expertise in an industry I wasn't familiar with, Carla told me, her eyes reflecting both the challenge and excitement of that moment. But I realized that my strength wasn't in pretending to know everything about filmmaking. It was in my curiosity, my empathy, and my willingness to be present with each person I interviewed. This realization is profound. How often do we disqualify ourselves from opportunities because we focus on what we lack rather than recognizing the unique gifts we bring? Carla didn't try to become someone else to host this podcast. Instead, she leaned into her natural abilities, her warm, soulful interviewing style, her genuine interest in people's stories, and her commitment to amplifying voices that often go unheard. The results were remarkable. Throughout May 2025, Carla conducted a series of compelling interviews with filmmakers that not only resonated deeply with listeners, but elevated the profiles of participating artists. The podcast became a celebrated component of the Detroit Filmmaker Awards, providing valuable exposure for indie filmmakers while establishing Carla as a trusted voice in the creative community. But here's what's truly fascinating. By embracing her authentic voice, Carla created space for others to find theirs. One filmmaker told Carla, "This is the first interview where I felt truly heard, where I didn't have to explain or justify my perspective as a Black creator." Another shared, "You asked questions no one else has asked me. Questions that got to the heart of why I make films in the first place." This is the power of authentic voice. It doesn't just transform us, it creates ripples that transform others. When we speak our truth, we give permission for others to speak theirs. We create sanctuaries of authenticity in a world drowning in pretense. Carla's journey didn't begin with the Detroit Filmmaker Awards. Long before that opportunity arose, she had been developing her heart to heart inspiration platform. With over 30 years of experience as a nurse, Carla brought a unique perspective of compassion and care to her content creation. This background informed her ability to connect with people's stories and communicate with empathy. Think about that for a moment. 30 years of witnessing human vulnerability, of standing beside people in their most fragile moments. That experience doesn't just teach you how to take a pulse, It teaches you how to take the measure of a soul. It teaches you how to listen not just to words, but to the spaces between them. In a digital landscape crowded with noise, Carla developed a distinctive voice and approach. She cultivated a warm, captivating speaking style that invites listeners to connect on a deeper level. Her authentic approach built a loyal following across platforms, particularly on Instagram, where her content regularly engages audiences seeking inspiration and meaningful connection. I realized early on that trying to sound like everyone else was exhausting, Carla shared with a laugh that somehow contained both wisdom and relief. The moment I started speaking from my heart, just being myself, everything changed. People responded differently. They leaned in, they engaged more deeply. So I just think this is a powerful reminder for all of us. In a world that often encourages conformity, our greatest impact comes when we embrace our uniqueness, when we stop trying to sound like everyone else and find the courage to speak in our own voice. But let's be honest, finding and using our authentic voice requires vulnerability. It means stepping outside our comfort zones and risking rejection or criticism. It means standing naked in the town square of ideas and saying, "This is me. This is what I believe." For Carla, hosting the Detroit Filmmaker Awards podcast meant entering an unfamiliar industry and putting herself in situations where she wasn't the expert. It meant asking questions without knowing the answers. It meant being willing to learn publicly. There were moments when I felt completely out of my depth, she admitted, her voice softening with the memory. But I discovered that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's connection. When I acknowledged what I didn't know, it created space for genuine conversation rather than performance. This vulnerability became a catalyst for Carla's personal growth and professional development. By stepping into the unknown, she expanded her skills, deepened her impact, and discovered new aspects of her voice and purpose. Through her work with the Detroit Filmmaker Awards, Carla witnessed firsthand how documentary filmmakers use their unique voices to tell powerful stories that might otherwise go untold. These filmmakers often face significant obstacles in funding, distribution, and finding platforms for stories that challenge mainstream narratives or center marginalized communities. Yet, despite these challenges, they embrace their authentic perspectives and use their distinctive voices to create compelling narratives that connect with audiences on an emotional level. Their work creates space for important conversations and brings attention to stories and experiences that deserve recognition. The documentary film world has been transformed by creators who bring their full, authentic selves to their work. Filmmakers like Carla Gutierrez, whose directorial debut, Frida, won the Jonathan Oppenheim Award for Best Editing at Sundance in 2024, demonstrate the impact of authentic storytelling. These aren't just films, they are declarations of existence. They're statements that say, "We are here, our stories matter, see us." These filmmakers have received recognition at prestigious festivals and award ceremonies with nominations for Oscars, Critics' Choice, Cinema Eye, Independent Spirit, NAACP, Imagen, and IDA awards. Their work has influenced how stories are told and who gets to tell them, creating more opportunities for diverse voices in the film industry. As Maya Angelou once said, there is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. The filmmakers Carla interviewed understood this truth deeply. They recognized that their stories, told in their authentic voices, had the power to heal, to challenge, to transform both themselves and their audiences. The same is true for each of us. We all have stories that need to be told, perspectives that deserve to be shared, voices that can create a change. But too often, We silence ourselves, we hold back. We conform to others' expectations rather than speaking our truth. Carla's work reminds us that when we lead with our genuine selves and lean into our natural gifts, we create opportunities for meaningful connection. For Carla, embracing her authentic self opened doors to new experiences and allowed her to make a greater impact through her work. The most powerful thing we can do, Carla told me, her eyes alight with conviction, is to show up as ourselves, not as who we think others want us to be, but as who we truly are. That's when the magic happens. This is especially relevant for Black women who often navigate spaces where their voices are undervalued or overlooked. As Audre Lorde powerfully stated, when we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard or welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak. Carla's journey exemplifies this courage to speak, to claim space, to use her voice, not just for herself, but for her community. As a birth doula, social and health justice advocate, and indie enthusiast, she brings a perspective that empowers others to advocate for themselves through the authentic expression of their experiences and truths. So I ask you now, what voice inside you is waiting to be heard? What truth are you carrying that the world needs to hear? What might happen if you stop dimming your light to make others comfortable with your brilliance? Today, I challenge you to find one space, just one, where you will commit to speaking your truth. Perhaps it's in that meeting where you usually stay silent. Maybe it's in that creative project you've been afraid to start, or perhaps it's in that relationship where you've been swallowing your needs to keep the peace. Choose your battleground, plant your flag, and speak, not with arrogance, but with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing your voice matters. Document what happens. Notice how it feels in your body to stand in your truth. Pay attention to how others respond when they encounter the authentic you. Remember that your voice has power, power to heal, power to connect, power to transform. In a world of carefully curated personas and politically calculated statements, authenticity isn't just refreshing, it's revolutionary. As Carla Jenkins has shown us, when we speak from our hearts, we don't just change ourselves, we change everything. We create ripples that become waves, that become tsunamis of transformation. We build bridges across the chasms of difference. We light torches that illuminate paths for others to follow. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And the world is waiting, not for a perfect, polished version of you, but for the real, raw, radiant truth of who you are. Speak it, live it, be it. Because when you find the courage to use your authentic voice, you never know who might be listening, whose life might be forever changed because you dared to speak.